Okay, welcome guys to game number 5 between, we'll see just now, it's still loading. Okay, well, we know it's an acid plant. Unfortunately this map is not in the current map pool. It was a great map. Okay, so this is game 5, and this is the quarterfinals between TY and Rogue. Of course, continuing with the series that I started, this is the quarterfinals of Blizzcon 2018. Thank you for joining me in this little replay analysis. Hopefully it won't be as long as the previous match. It was a bit drawn out, I must say. So I'm definitely looking forward to a game that's less than 15 minutes long. But we shall see what the players decide to do. It's entirely dependent on their play styles and the power struggle between them. But yeah, we shall see. Rogue probably going for his hatchery first player. This map is a huge rush distance, so he won't really go for spawning pool first to go for early pressure with that. But on the TY side of things, we see a double racks, and this is if I'm not mistaken, this is the third time he's used this in this series. So 3 games out of 5. This is the final game. The scores are 2-2 at this moment. I know it's reflecting 0-0, but this is because we're watching a replay. So yeah, 2 racks for TY in this final match in the best of 5. And Rogue just going for standard and hatchery first into spawning pool with extractor. Now, will he scout this? It looks like he likes to keep an overlord near his natural, so he's just waiting to see the SCVs and marine or whatever pushing in. He's actually also sending out a drone right now. Oh shit. He's going for the quick third. This might be game over if you ask me. You will most likely cancel that, but it means you won't have minerals to make Zerglings and Queens immediately. I think he just got meta-gamed, to be honest. You need to cancel that immediately. I think he got meta again because this map has a long rush distance. He probably just thought, well, TY won't do something like that against me. But in fact, TY, well, he thought, let me capitalize on that mind game. Just gonna quick pause. Sorry, just want to make sure that the sound always keeps on going to 78%. Oh my lord. I think it's because I'm watching this in offline mode, because it's an older patch. So every time I save it on 50 or whatever percent, it's not actually syncing to the cloud, you know. So I have to actually change it whilst I'm online. Okay, whatever. Stupid that they don't keep that persistent change. Anyway, so this looks terrible for Rogue. He's still not cancelling that hatchery. I'm surprised. Because if he had more minerals, he could make a queen over here. He could make a queen. Well, he's making 1 over here, but that's not enough. He could do something else, perhaps throw down a roach warren. This is very bad for Rogue. I think he's preparing lings and no queens actually. He's preparing queens. Lings, sorry, but no extra queens, just 1. He's preparing lings to eventually kill these bunkers. He's not making baning nests, so we know it's just speed ling counter. And then on this side, he's probably also going to make lings, or a queen actually, to come from behind. And then he'll destroy the bunkers. But looking at the current state, it's actually not that bad for Rogue, since he did leave up his third base. And TY does not know about that. So at least he does have a hatchery up and going, so he can actually do a huge counter attack. Looks like he's not mining any gas right now, so he's just going... TY salvage the 1 bunker. That's also something that you can do, because I mean the attack's basically over. You got the hatchery in the main, so just go, you know, remove your 1 bunker and salvage it to get some extra cash. And Rogue smartly went for the bunker just before his speed upgrade finished. So Rogue's in a decent spot. This is not bad for him at all. This is also why I watch his stuff, to actually get some more insight into the play styles of these players and their, their, what do you call it? Like, yeah, they're basically smart plays what they do. I mean, Rogue is in a decent spot. He's ahead in workers. He's got some links to pressure with, but there are, this time TY's not in a very bad spot, at least, like the previous games where Rogue had a Roach Warren already, so he just went for a counter push and won the game. And the second one, he also went for a 3-base Roach push. So he might still do that. He's getting his third hatchery, and I think it was on blue shift. I think it was on blue shift. He also defended a 2-Rax proxy, but he sacked his natural, I think. Oh no, he actually defended it. I'm lying. He used drone pulls and stuff to defend it. And then after that, he just got his third up, and presto, he had a decent economy to make roaches, ravages, and lings, and shortly thereafter he won the game. So if the past is any indication, Rogue should do well, because TY still hasn't gotten up his CC in his natural. It's still in his base. This time TY is doing some other stuff though, because at this point in the other games where he had 2 racks, he basically lost almost at this point. A bit later on blue shift, I think. So yeah, he's just keeping his Rogue busy. He's doing some damage, but just keep in mind, he's using these Hellions also to just poke in and find out what Rogue is up to. And smartly, Rogue did in fact hide this Roach Warren, because I believe he's just gonna drone up a bit and then go for a Roach Ravager attack, maybe. But smartly, Rogue did put down his Roach Warren here, so that TY doesn't just go and look in his main. But sadly for Rogue, TY 1-upped him and his Hellions poked in to see them. Sorry, I'm playing with one hand at the moment. Yeah, I did see the Roach Warren. He probably clicked on it to see that it is in fact a Roach Warren. So smart plays from both players actually. One trying to mind game the other. Okay, no, Rogue is actually now... I think he meant to do a surprise Roach all-in with Lynx, but now that he knows that TY knows what he was trying to do, Rogue just smartly backs off and is just droning up. I mean, he's got 55 drones already. He should be at 70 about at 8 minutes in, depending on whether or not he's gonna make an army now or not. He should not need to for defense reasons. TY's got a decent army at least, but to counteract that, Rogue does have a decent Roach army. And Ling's chilling here at the 12 o'clock base, just waiting to run in. I think this is going to be super awesome to see Rogue, if he just has the patience to execute this. He should leave his Lings there as long as he can. So when TOI eventually pushes out, just run Lings in, kill off the reinforcing army of TOI, or just go in the natural and kill SCVs. So yeah, Rogue sitting in a good spot. I'm actually glad. He smartly realized that you can't really go for an all-in now, because TY was prepared for that, for the follow-up, for the 3-base Roach all-in style. So he smartly did not try and do that, and I also think because this is the final game in the series, he did want to play it safer, and it's a long rush distance as well, so getting these reinforcements there will be much harder. TY also recognizing the long rush distance and the advantage that the creep will give Rogue. He's smartly just moving out with squads of marines and killing off the creep terminals. That's huge, because the creep is almost halfway across the map. Well, this long streak at least. And TY pulling the boys, bringing SCVs. Just wanna analyze the situation just quickly. Look at the supply. Todd, look at the supply. 110 for TY and 159, let's say 160 for Rogue. So that's a 50 supply lead for Rogue. Now it is Zerg, so it's a bit skewed because you have to have more supply usually. Generally now. And his army supply is 30 more, so that's the more indicative thing. He's got a good worker supply. He actually went to about 60 drones, and it's smart because he's sitting on mostly fully saturated 3-base. He's not usually fully saturated on 3-base is what, 72 drones, I think. It's 22 per base. No, that's 66. Sorry, my bad maths. It's 66 per base, so he's almost there. But of course, he had to start producing units because he saw TY was moving out. And as I also suspected, he was actually patient enough to leave those lings here. This is gonna wreak havoc because they might get into the natural over here, and they might also kill a few SCVs, but most of the SCVs that were here are with this army. Okay, so analyzing this situation, don't want to produce any spoilers, but I think obviously most people know who won this game, but still, in retrospect, it's cool to look at the actual fight that happened. And I haven't actually watched it. I don't believe I watched this game. Well, yeah, I did not watch this in replay, at least. I think I saw it live, but anyway, does not matter. 1-1 soon gonna finish. Range and carapace for Rogue. So he's going for the Roach Ravager style against this. Now, if we think about it, look at this army. The reason TY obviously supplied it with SCVs, probably to repair the siege tanks, but it's not generally what they are used for in this composition. They're not usually for siege tanks, because siege tanks usually just get burst down. The SCVs are here to tank, of course, but just stating the obvious over here. But yeah, the obvious is less obvious when we actually try and analyze what will the tanking potential be. Will they be able to tank looking at the rest of the army, or is the rest of the army strong enough to, you know, benefit from this tank? Well, looking at Rogues, huge ball of Ravagers and Roaches, he'll most likely just have to pull a few drones to tank for him as well, whilst he pushes in with these Roaches and throw corrosive biles on the backlines. That's smart because, well, you should throw a few on the SCVs in front just to get them down quicker so that he can push through, but also on the backlines, maybe on a siege tank or two. I believe these siege tanks will be sieging up. One maybe around here, one maybe there. You have to spread them out and stagger them, like one here, there, like that. It's smarter that way, except for, yeah, you know, I mean, instead of having them one next to one another or in a straight line. Either way, it doesn't matter as long as you spread them out a bit. Anyway, so we're going to see them spread out soon, and then the corrosive biles should be able to reach at least 2 of them at the start. So I just wanted to, you know, just wanted to get the pretext for this. Okay, so the Lings are going to do some nice damage here in the natural, +1 attack, and yeah, only +1 attack for TY is going to finish. I believe he'll push out just when that finishes. And this Rogue should also try and stall time. I'm not sure how many seconds are remaining, but it should be a few seconds for this to finish. He must just stall and give enough time so that he can defend this push. And we have a few queens over here to have enough energy to throw out in transfusions. And this is still the old patch, so transfusions give all the HP possible instantly. So, without further ado, this should be the final battle. Looking at the supply, looking at the armies, this should be the final battle. And let's see how this simulation plays out. 1, 2, 3, let's go. Okay, so TY, waiting for his +1 to finish. It's going to finish in 2 seconds. There it goes. He stims in with a few Marines. The siege tanks are at least not next to one another. They are a bit far, but they can still sort of siege over here. No, one can hit the natural, or the hatchery. And finally Rogue decides, okay, now it's time to push in. Takes all his queens and his Ravagers. He's throwing down corrosive biles on the siege tanks specifically. And yeah, this should be game over. He cleaned that up perfectly. That was smart by Rogue just to pull back for a bit, because as you saw, he pulled the Marines and stuff back and the SCVs, and he just killed them. And that was so smart, because even though TY managed to get this hatchery, Rogue indeed knew that this was an all-in maneuver, so he just has to hold, and he can practically just A-move now and win the game. But adding to that, it's not quite an A-move, but he knows he's far ahead, so eventually he can do that. Anyway, so that was smart, pulling the Marines and the SCVs back so you can kill them safely He's losing his hatchery, true, but he's killing the other units safely, whilst the siege tanks don't do that much in the fight. And then when the Marines and SCVs were softened up, or most of them killed, he then just pushed and cleaned up the rest of the siege tanks and the army. Okay, so TY now knows he's in a terrible spot. He's only got 28 workers, which is absolutely terrible at this stage of the game. He's trying to salvage this game by making more Marines and siege tanks. He doesn't really have the economy to make medevacs as well. So he's using his he's got 4 medevacs. So he's using 2 of them just to harass and to keep Rogue back. But Rogue, on the other hand, almost has his new 3rd base up and running. This should be GG already, but of course this is the last game, so TY is gonna try and stay in as long as possible. Hopefully not as long as typical Marine King GG timing. Or who was the other guy? I think it was Innovation. I think Innovation also likes to stay in quite long, but not that long. Marine King is the prime example. Don't know if you caught that little pun. Prime. Anyway, enough of the corny jokes. So yeah, TY has actually stabilized a little bit. He caught up, surprisingly, an army. But just as I said that, Rogue obviously just does the Zerg things with quite a few workers. So he just, with the minerals and stuff, he just immediately made a huge army. But I'm still worried about Rogue's position in terms of his army composition. It's not too great. There are some Marauders supplementing this TY push. TY is practically going all in. As you can see, he's only now getting +1 armor. It's almost finished though. But he's got no aspirations of going to a longer game. He's not okay. He's actually expanding, okay. But this is basically the last fight. Rogue has got a much larger army. He's focusing or concentrating all his units over here. I don't think he even knows that TY is basically, this is his last stand, whatever. Sorry, his stance or whatever. So he didn't even, I mean, it's usual for Zergs to keep a few Lings and Roaches or whatever your main units are, just keeping them close to your bases or in your bases, like somewhere around here where drops are common. But he's got so much Overlord coverage and creep tumors, he can, okay, not everything, like this gap over here, you can't really spot anything. But over here you can see stuff coming, so you should be able to react in a timely fashion by just rallying these units over there so you can defend. But yeah, okay, so this is an awesome stim in by TY. He's stalling, stalling this game, but Rogue on the other hand has got a maxed or almost maxed out army. This is actually, I did not expect it. Now that I think about that, I did not watch this live actually, because this game, TY is far behind, but he's playing so well actually by just stalling the game and creating some openings for himself. I mean, this wall off with units and siege tanks is amazing, because Rogue can't really push in, and I believe, I mean, he's double supply and he can't really do much. Now he's sitting on only 2 bases yet again, waiting for his third base to come up again. So that's a terrible spot, having to remake your third for the 3rd time. Well, not remake it, but making it for the 3rd time. And then he's actually also trying to he's getting a 4th in conjunction with that. So yeah, this is an interesting game to watch actually, because we analyze all the battles. We pretty much, especially that first one that happened right over here, we analyzed that quite well. I mean, it was quite apparent what was going to happen, but the way it happened was awesome. Like, both players did well, but Rogue outplayed, but he also had the advantage, of course. But he did well, he played it correctly. But now we see a sort of, it's weird, because it's usually the state that Zerg is in sometimes. Is you got a huge army, but you can't really break a turn. But just as I said that, look at this tactical approach. Flanking from the bottom, flanking from the top. So the siege tanks are much less effective. They do less effective damage, and this is where Rogue crushed TY. So yeah, so just talking about battles, we actually only saw 2 main battles in the game. This is the last one, of course. The first one was over here. This one was easily cleaned up by Rogue, but as I said, his kiting and then pushing in again was smart, even though he didn't know he was going to sack his base. But he still played it very smart, because I think in that situation it was smarter to kill off the SCVs and the rest of the army while sacrificing the base, rather than sacrificing more of your own units and then putting yourself at a a greater chance of losing. So this was smart by Rogue. He secured his other bases now, but TY also played this great. I mean, this was exceptional play by TY. I'm just sad that he ended his best of 5 with another 2 racks, because basically all the other games with the 2 racks he lost in the series. So it's not always a great opening. Just to take home for anybody who thinks they can just do that every day. Yeah, against a lesser skilled player, sure. You can always do 2 racks and probably win most of the time, except when you play against a pool first. Yeah, some weird games can happen if you play against a pool first and suddenly some things show up whilst you're trying to build your bunkers. Anyway, we're not going to go into that now. So yeah, this was a great approach by Rogue here at the end. It's usually hard to to push into a Terran, especially when he has plenty of fortresses and supply depots walling off. We don't see that just yet over here, because TY just recently took this base, so he could not wall this off. But even so, would have still been harder to hold for him. But Rogue smartly just came around over here with a huge squad of Roaches and Ravagers, and the same here at the bottom. So he pincered the Terran army. The siege tanks are less effective when they have to shoot 2 different directions, and that's just it. Game's just over. So whenever you have a supply advantage against Terran, I usually make the mistake, you see, of dying to mines and stuff like that. But in this meta, mines were not, in this specific situation, mines weren't the answer anyway against Roaches. But either way, yeah, so always bring Overlords as a Zerg. As Terran, of course, I can't really much give you advice for this situation. I mean, you wanted to do your 2-rack stuff, you're gonna be behind if it fails, or at least in this situation where it didn't do that much. It just killed a natural, and then that's pretty much all she wrote about that. So anyway, as a Zerg, especially in the current meta, just to modify this a bit, get your overseers together with your army, so you can snipe any widow mines, because they are quite common these days. And yeah, and learn to flank like this. It does take some patience and conscientious players, because you have to literally think, okay, well, if my main army is over here and now I have to split them up, I know here's fortified position over here, now I have to split them up, shit, okay, now I have to split this one army over here. They're also going through a choke point, but their surface area is going to be decent over here, all this surface area to fight against. And then, well, the less surface area the better, of course, but I mean, that's good, that's decent. I mean, the Terran, if he had units over here as well, it would have been harder. And then, yeah, so the main thing is it's always not nice to have to split up your army, because you know, okay, shit, if I move the rest of my army, it's such a long way over around here. And you also know that, well, in case, let's say this was a more equal game. I mean, this was a washout, basically, because the army has almost doubled the supply for Rogue. But let's say this is a more equal game. You don't really want to split up, because this split army might just die to a huger or stronger, squad or army of the other player. So, but, I mean, you have to analyze it situationally. So Rogue got made the right decision over here, came around here, so split up the area of effect of the siege tanks, and the Marines are only here in front, so the DPS is also gone over here. So yeah, that's just smart, just pincer the Terrans. But yeah, the main takeaway from this should just be, it's hard sometimes to push into a Terran player, even when you are ahead. But whenever you are in this situation, use positional advantage to your advantage. Use your position to your advantage. make flanks, do run-bys at his other bases with lings or whatever, just to you know, do some extra damage while you are attacking. Anyway, so that's all for that. I'll have a look at what other series I'm gonna check out next time. Thank you very much for watching.